Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nichelle and I am a 20-year-old aspiring author. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my own writing and I am super excited to get to talk to you guys about this. I will be going over one of my works in progress, tentatively titled Double Vision. If you follow me on Instagram, this is kind of the one I talk about the most. It's my favorite thing that I'm doing at the moment, and just to give you a little bit more of a background on it, I started this story back in April 2020. So that was for the Camp NaNoWriMo of April. That was my very first camp project and I had just come up with it maybe 2 weeks before camp. So that was pretty interesting for me because I am such a planner. I didn't have that much time to be planning it out. I ended up finishing it at the end of June at, I want to say 85,333 words. I did not work that much on it during July and really not that much in August either, other than planning. I have come to the conclusion that I want to revamp my edits in a different way. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a background on what the story is about, and then I will go ahead and talk to you guys about what those edits are, and we'll do some together today. So Double Vision is a young adult fantasy novel, and my main character's name is Alina Hamilton. So Alina struggles with double vision. So basically that means that her eyes do not match up and she sees 2 images where there should only be 1. I actually have this in my own personal life, so the inspiration from the story was I wanted to take something that is kind of more of a negative thing in my life and put a positive spin on it into a fantasy world, make it more interesting. So that was pretty fun for me. So she struggles with double vision just like I do. She wears glasses for it. I should wear my glasses more, but I don't. Alina is much better about that than I am. And she wears her glasses for her double vision, but she really does struggle with it and she is nervous to grow up. These reasons include that she does not really want to drive because of her double vision, but more than that, it's because she feels guilty for growing up without her sister. So 5 years prior to when the story takes place is when her double vision started, and that's when her twin sister Allison went missing. She and Allison were 12 at the time, and when Allison went missing, she doesn't really remember what happened, except she has this vision of her being trapped into somewhat of a portal. But she thinks that she's just hallucinating and she's kind of thrown it by the wayside. Everyone in the small town that she lives in expects her to be moving on without Allison, and no one really brings her up anymore. Alina is very frustrated by this because she feels like they need to still be talking about her. She's a very important person to Alina. Why isn't she important to the rest of the town or even her parents? So she's struggling with all of that, dealing with her best friend who is not really that supportive and just is trying to push her out of her comfort zone all the time, which could be a good thing, but Alina really doesn't like that. Of course, then we meet the love interest, and his name is Warren. So Warren is new to the town, and when Alina meets him, he is the only person who is bringing up Allison. So she feels like he must have some connection to her or something like that. And indeed he does, and he's the only one who believes her about the portal actually opening up. So together they find where that portal opens up, and it turns out her double vision is her reflecting into this almost parallel world that is inside the town of Hallsdale, which is this made-up town that I created for the story. So Warren and Alina go through the portal and they're trying to find Allison, but along the way there's a lot of generational secrets, a whole family tree that neither of them really knew about, and all of a sudden it's their job to find out what the legacy holds in the past and how they can move on to the future. That's a pretty basic summary. There's obviously a lot more to it, but just to kind of give you guys an insight into what I am wanting to do as far as my edits, this whole time I've written the entire book in Alina's perspective. But the more that I plan out the sequel for Double Vision, because yes, there will be a sequel, I think that Warren needs to have a bigger part of the story. I think that Warren deserves to have his voice heard too. So what I want to do is integrate his voice into the perspective as well and make it where you're hearing the story from both Alina and Warren's point of view. I also want to have a third point of view that's not as significant, and it's kind of a spoiler, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to actually end up saying, but anyway, the third point of view, her name is Ingrid, and this is a point of view from the past. So the reason for Ingrid's point of view is that there is a scene at the very end of the book that's kind of a word dump of information. Alina finds out this huge secret, all these generational secrets and traumas, And it's kind of the explanation of why everything has been happening to them. Why was Allison taken? Why wasn't Alina taken when Allison was kidnapped? And why does Warren know about it? So there's a whole lot of secrets in there, and there's a reason behind everything. She finds it out at the very end of the novel, and I want the reader to be finding out along the way, so it's not just like word dump all at the end. So I think that Ingrid's point of view will be really helpful in understanding things that Alina doesn't even know, but then the reader can find out and piece 2 and 2 together along the way. Then Alina can find everything out at the end, but it doesn't have to be so much of a word dump because the reader knows everything. That is what I want to do as far as those points of view. But as I mentioned before, I've never attempted multiple points of view before, but I'm really excited to try it. And I've also never tried writing from my male point of view, so I'm pretty excited. I decided that I'm going to start this kind of series here of my new adventures, the things I've never tried before that I'm going to document with you guys. So I'm really excited about it, and this is going to be the first one of trying character profiles. So basically, I have done character profiles in the past, but not super recently, and I think it'll be really helpful in trying to piece together each point of view so I can understand which scenes will be better told from which perspective, because I've never done that before, so I'm a little bit nervous about it, and I hope that this will be really helpful for me. So with that, let's get started. So welcome to my desk, another side of my writing room that I haven't filmed in before, so we'll add it to the adventure list. Alright, so for our character profiles that we're doing, I am going to do the 3 character profiles of Alina, Warren, and Ingrid. I haven't done Alina's at all yet. I mean, I had made like a sketch and everything, kind of my own thoughts, but she changed a lot as the story went on too. So I'm going to be taking what I know now about her and adding it to my character profile. That way I can understand her a little bit better when I get into the edits. And know exactly what I'm shooting for. I think that'll be really helpful. And then I haven't really dived into Warren's head. I kind of have in the last month when I've been planning out these edits, but it'll be nice to get it down on paper, and then Ingrid as well. So I'm pretty excited to share this with you guys this moment. So for these character profiles, I found a template of sorts on Reedsy blog, and it's called How to Create a Character Profile, the Ultimate Guide with Template. The blog has an optional printout, but I'm actually going to be using my bullet journal. And keep an eye out, next week I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about my bullet journal and how I set it up. So I'm excited to do that with you guys. So I really like the way that this template is set up. It has 3 sections for each character profile. And so it kind of goes into how deep of a character understanding do you have. So there is the skin, which is how they look and just basic stuff like that. There's the flesh, which is more of how they grew up, childhood things that you need to know, background information. And then after flesh, there is the core. So the core has more of like psychology based and understanding a little bit deeper about how they deal with problems and different things like that. So I'm going to stick with that because I think it's a pretty cool analogy to include there. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Alina. So I will write out all of the stuff using the Reedsy blog. Some of the questions that I've read through, I don't quite think match with what I'm going for, so I'm not going to include those. For example, one of them is, what's your character's favorite curse word? Well, Alina doesn't curse, so I'm not going to include that. But I think, you know, there's different things that are going to be more obvious to me that I just don't think fit. So I will share with you guys what I have down once I am done with everything. Alrighty, so I got Alina's character profile done. It's kind of a lot. So I thought I would go ahead and just give you guys brief descriptions of everything. So for Alina's skin, her name is Alina Hamilton. She's 17. Eye color, green. Hairstyle, blonde, straight, shoulder length. Probably about right here. Not that I'm supposed to look like my character. I definitely think of her looking a little bit different, but anyway. Build, 5'6", 130 pounds. See, she's taller and skinnier than me, so we're good there. And anyway, as far as other things that I think might be relevant to you guys or what you might be interested in, her handwriting is careful and neat. She's super into poetry, which is another thing that'll be pretty relevant later on as she finds out about her own powers, which is pretty exciting. Spoiler alert. But anyway, she is a very reserved person and very careful about what she does. So the fact that she has to break out of her comfort zone is what the main point of the skin is, I think. That this is how she is, this is how she acts, is very reserved and private, all that stuff, and she has to let herself get out of that zone. So when we get down to flesh, her childhood was playful and outdoorsy pre the kidnapping, but then after Allison is gone, she kind of shelters herself. Her role model would be Allison because Allison was always confident and friendly, had more friends than her, brought her out of her shell. So she definitely looks up to Allison in that way. Her greatest regret is never finding Allison. Her earliest memory is Allison forcing her outside to play at like 3 or 4. So this is just going to show that Allison is the one who has always helped her branch out. So now that she doesn't have Allison with her, she's feeling very lost. Skeletons in her closet is her real memory of Allison disappearing, seeing magic, but still suppressing it. And then if she could change one thing from the past, it would be being conscious while Allison was taken so that she could have actually reacted to what was going on. These are pretty interesting to me, these major turning points or life beats of the childhood. So number 1 would be Allison forcing her to be more social. I say force, but you know, it's more encouraging. Being teased and made fun of is number 2. That makes her feel very self-conscious. Number 3 is losing Allison. That is like the biggest thing for her that makes her feel even worse than she already did. And then number 4 is becoming friends with Holly, who is her best friend, although she doesn't quite think she really wants to be best friends with her anymore. And then as far as the advice she would give to her younger self, she would say, watch out for Allison, not just for yourself. She feels very guilty for everything that had happened, even though it wasn't her fault. And then when we get to what people think of her, so classmates think of her as too serious or parenty. For example, they want to go out and drink every Friday night, and she's always like, no thanks. So they don't really like that. Who she depends on for advice is Mrs. Ackerman, who is one of the secretaries at the school. She's like an assistant to her, and she kind of sees her as more of a best friend than Holly. Mrs. Ackerman is very important to the story. And then her core, or her psychology. Basically, it goes into things like favorite sound, Allison's voice. Secrets that she keeps from others would be that she likes poetry. Most people don't like it. And then knowing about Allison's disappearance more than she's let on. Her biggest want is to have Allison back. Her biggest flaw is not having a strong backbone, not feeling comfortable enough to stand up for herself. And then her biggest strength is her determination. Once she finds out that Allison is still alive, she's going to do everything in her power to get her back. How does she handle power? She's first afraid of it, and then she embraces it, and maybe a little bit too much. How does she feel about love? She's skeptical. So when Warren is in her life, she falls for him pretty instantly, but she's fighting herself the whole time about, well, no, the point of this is to find Allison. It's not to fall in love. But of course she falls in love. I mean, of course she does. Anyway, she finds change too scary. She hates change. Or the idea of growing up, moving on without Allison. That's horrible to her. Basically, when we get to the end, it says the story goal for her is to rescue Allison from this other world. But her motivation is to get back to how they were pre-kidnapping. Of course, what she actually needs to do in order to fully develop as a character is she needs to realize that they won't ever get back to that point. She has to accept the present and move on to the future. As you can see, a lot of her motivation and a lot of her character arc is so revolved around Allison. And that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. She is so focused on Allison that she's not paying attention to anything else. So there are a couple of examples throughout the book where she ends up doing that to a fault. But when she gets to the end of the book, she's realizing Allison is very important to me, but there's more that I need to be doing. There's more than worrying about what will happen to Allison. That's pretty much what we have going on for Alina. And now I'm going to go ahead and do Warren's and Ingrid's because I think Alina's is a lot longer since she is my main character. And I am excited to get Warren's and Ingrid's done. So I will check in with you guys here in just a minute. Okay guys, let me show you how much I did today. Oh my goodness. So this is Alina's and that's Alina's. And this is Alina's too. Then this is Warren's. Also Warren's, here's a little note for myself of a scene I think would be really good from his point of view. And then this is Ingrid's. As you can see, Warren and Ingrid's character profiles are a lot shorter than Alina's, but I think that that's okay because she is the main character and I've also known her a lot more, so I had a lot more to say about her. But I'm also very glad that I did this because I don't think I understood them nearly as much before doing this character profile, so that's a win. Okay, so let's go ahead and do Warren's character profile real quick. I will give you guys a little bit of the basics. So Warren, he is 18. His place of birth was Hallsdale. His favorite accessory or what he always keeps with him, a ukulele. And that's because it was his dad's. So it's kind of a family heirloom and it gets pretty important towards the end of the book. As far as things about him, he is a very casual person. He grew up in an orphanage, so he's had to be more independent and he has relied more on himself than anyone else. So he has a casual way about him, but he's very independent. When we get into the flesh, he had a free, rebellious childhood pre-orphanage. His family also went missing 5 years prior. So, can you see the connection there? Anyway, when we get into things like his greatest regret, that ukulele that he carries with him is broken. He smashed it to pieces out of anger once. And so that's his greatest regret, is actually doing that because it was a symbol of him destroying what little family he had left. His clearest memory is telling his brother Benjamin how much he hates him. Skeletons in his closet is how much he used to dislike his family. He's very ashamed of that he used to dislike his family and then they went missing and now he feels responsible and guilty for ever saying those hurtful things to them. For his turning points of childhood, the number one would be telling his brother that he hates him. That is kind of the catalyst for him not having a great relationship with anyone in his family. And then number two is his family going missing and going into foster care. And number three is when his friends in foster care are going to drop out of school and they're going to start this brand new life and he feels like he hasn't done justice in trying to figure out the past. So he makes the decision to go back to Hallsdale and try to figure it out. So that's where our story kind of starts with him, is him leaving his friends behind as soon as he turns 18 to find Alina, find out what happened 5 years ago. The advice he would have for his younger self is to appreciate your family because they won't be there forever. His core, which is that he is street smart, optimistic, and extroverted, which is pretty much the opposite of Alina. Secrets, that he is the reason his family is dead. So he doesn't actually know that his family is dead, and he blames himself, but he's not really the reason that they're dead. For his base want, he wants peace and an innocent conscience. His biggest flaw is being critical with himself. Even though he has this go-getter mentality, he doesn't give himself time to rest. His biggest strength is courage and resiliency, and his biggest fear is causing more destruction. As far as his approach to love, he is open to it for everything. He is very open with Alina. She is the one who is distancing herself. What makes him angry is people being inconsiderate, which is something that Alina actually does struggle with, is being inconsiderate towards others, especially with Warren, because she doesn't understand what all he's had to go through. So that's kind of a difficult thing that they have to work through. His story goal is to find his parents, and once he finds out that they're most likely dead, then he changes his goal to helping Alina find her sister. His motivation is to make up for all of the wrong that he's done over the years, to get rid of that guilty conscience.
So I was going to go over Ingrid's character profile, but this video is already too long and it's very spoilery. So if you want to hear more about it, please let me know.
Alrighty, so that is my character profile for each of the 3 characters, and I am pretty glad that I did this. I think it gave me a much better insight into what their points of view are going to be like, and understanding them better so that my reader can understand them better. I think that this was a really great thing to try, and I'm glad that I did it. I'm really excited to start the multiple points of view. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I'm going to start planning those out pretty soon of which chapters I'm going to change to Warren's, and then taking that big word dump scene and separating them out into Ingrid's point of view. So anyway, that was today's video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed doing that with me. I hope that you found it interesting too. I hope it wasn't too bad that I was, throwing my story at you, but I think it's fun to hear about other people's stories, so let me know what you guys are doing. Have you ever tried multiple points of view? How did you start it? Did you do a character profile or anything like that? Let me know in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you would like if you want to, and subscribe if you want to, and leave a comment, we can definitely chat in the comments. But other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!